welcome. Alice, can you give us a roll call, please?
Alderman Petracos?
Present.
Alderman Capadona?
Here.
Alderman Galogly?
Here.
Alderman Smith is absent. Alderman Deskin's absent. And Alderman Vandermeer is absent. Alderman Perretta?
Here.
Alderman Botterson?
Here.
5 present.
All right. Just explain our thin numbers up here. Brian works for ComEd, and he's out up in a bucket right now because of the high winds, trying to fix repair lines. Jason is in China on business, and Darren's father is not doing well, so he's home taking care of him. So apologize for the thin numbers, but I'm glad you're all here. A couple things in the introduction that I wanted to recognize some folks here, and I'd like to start with Austin O'Connor. So Austin, if you and Coach can come on up. Now, for those of you guys who watch council meetings, and I know that's good television out there, Austin and his coach Dan Manzilla have been here before. Austin is a spectacular wrestler, and there's a list of achievements here, Dan, but I want you to please, you have the honor of telling everyone here at the city what exactly Austin has achieved. And so if you don't mind, I would love for you to come up and say these things. Here's a list of my bullet pointed, although I'm sure you haven't memorized.
First, I want to thank you guys for having us. What a great opportunity and great recognition. I have wrestlers from all over the city and all over the surrounding suburbs, and this is the only community that recognizes the boys, and we really appreciate that. Thank you very much. So to go off Austin's list of accomplishments just for the season, he won his 3rd consecutive Dvorak National Tournament, and that tournament is widely regarded as one of the top 3 most competitive high school tournaments in the country. He won his 3rd consecutive Cheesehead National Invitational Tournament, which is widely considered a top 3 national tournament in the country.
Just got that bad name.
And we wear our bear stuff when we head up there. They think it's cute. He also won he was also voted the most outstanding wrestler of that tournament in the finals. He wrestled the number 7 nationally ranked guy in the nation from Missouri, and he was beating him 7-0 when he pinned him in the 2nd period. So that earned him the most outstanding wrestler award. He won his 3rd consecutive Illini Classic. It's a wonderfully tough in-state tournament. This was the 3rd year in a row that he has pinned his way through the Chicago Catholic League tournament, which is widely considered the most competitive conference in the country, especially for wrestling, and has been for a long time. So I think he's wrestled 9 matches at the Catholic League tournament in 3 years. He has not gone the distance yet. He will be if he can finish that off next year, which he better, he'll be the first guy to ever do that. Where are we at? This was his 3rd consecutive year winning the regional, sectional, and the state tournaments. He's very good. As a junior this year, this was the 2nd year he was voted as team captain. He was also voted as team captain as a sophomore. He finished his season with a perfect 50-0 record. And, undefeated, you don't see that very often. Undefeated on the schedule that St. Rita wrestles. It's very similar to the schedule that Lockport High School wrestlers. It's a national schedule. It's almost impossible, and he did it fairly convincingly. He broke the St. Rita single-season pin record of 34 that I used to hold. And he beat it up with 38 falls on the season. And he finished the season as Win Magazine's #1 ranked 145-pounder in the nation. So it's a heck of a season.
I think it's one of the most intense sports, and I mean, it's amazing what you've done. And as you guys may or may not know, he wrestled Josh. It was Oster, right? Josh Oster, is that his name? Shane Oster for the state championship. So 2 Lockport guys. It was the clash of the Titans. And I just want to give you a certificate to say thank you, and just for recognition. And really, thank you for coming out here and letting us just acknowledge you. It's our pleasure. So, the only thing that worries me is I don't remember you smiling last time, so I don't know if you're getting soft. Last time I swear laser beams were boring holes in the wall. So, I don't know. You gotta make sure it doesn't get soft, Coach. The next person I want to recognize for service is Mr. Groen. Heck, are you guys all ready to rock and roll?
Next week.
We're going to do it next week? Okay. I saw you showed up. Okay. We'll take care of Jim next week. All right, very good. All right, next I want to, it's a promotion of our new Sergeant, Sean Kelly. So, Sean, you want to come up here with your wife and your babies? How are you girls doing? Is this exciting or what? Probably get some extra stripes, huh? They're fun. Uniforms look better when they got lots of stuff on, right? Yeah. Listen, Sean, I want to thank you so much and congratulate you on this. I thank you for being part of protecting our city and our citizens and just really being part of the community, you know, and reaching out. And the department has done such a wonderful job with our commissioners and our chief and the officers and everyone is involved and our chaplains. So thank you so much for being, I mean, you guys are one of the biggest parts of our city. So thank you again. And let me get I think I have my notes to swear you in. I think I left them up at the counter. One moment. Chief, you want to come up, please? All right, so we're going to swear you in. So if you'll raise the right hand. I, Sean M. Kelly.
Members of the council, Pam Hurst not here tonight. She's at an ICSC event in Chicago. So I'll kind of lead this conversation. I know the petitioner's here. I'm sure Chief Scory will go through a PowerPoint with you. This is regarding the planning and zoning case that was heard on Station 1. The fire district has determined that they'd like to upgrade the fire station there. And the proposed building is being combined, is a combination of brick and stone exterior. It's approximately 9,000 square feet. The building will be in the same general location as the current building, and access to the property will continue to be off both 7th Street and 9th Street. The parcel is kind of an irregular shape, and you know, other locations were certainly considered, but I think this is a unique corner here that is also difficult to develop, and hence they'll be asking for several setbacks and some variances. Specific code deviations requested as part of the planned commercial development are the parking setback on 9th and 7th would be 0 feet, and the code is 30 feet. Along 9th Street, it's 20 feet on 7th Street. The building setback proposed is for the front yard setback ranging from 18 to 48 feet with the rear yard setback ranging from 4 to 47 feet when the code is 50 feet, and 20 feet is the other setback. The parking stall access, we've got the proposal for 6 parking stalls along the 7th Street frontage for individual access is directly off the street. That's semi-unusual. The city ordinance requires that the parking stalls be directly accessible for an aisleway or a driveway or a different entranceway. And in this particular situation, the fire district would like to upgrade. They have a current message center that they would like to upgrade to electronics message center. Typically, that's a 16 square foot allowance, and they're requesting for 32 feet, which would be, I think it's 8 by 4, isn't it, Chief? And this will allow them to have better, as a government entity, to have better displays regarding amber alerts, severe weather conditions, and it'll be easier to read. We did have the public hearing with the Planning and Zoning Commission at the regular scheduled meeting on March 8th, 2016, and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval for the final development plans and special use permit. There was a vote of 5-0 for the Planning and Zoning Commission to recommend approval, and we're seeking direction to place on April 6th City Council action or agenda for action. And I think maybe we should have the chief come up and walk through his PowerPoint and then take questions and comments from the council.
All right. Come on down, Chief.
Mr. Mayor and council members, good evening. My name is Dave Scory, currently the fire chief for the Lockport Township Fire Protection District, and I'm going to look down here for a minute while I open this. That's not mine. That's one.
PowerPoint straight down, I don't think you,
There we
oh,
go.
that was fine.
Okay. Thanks for allowing me here tonight. I just want to introduce a couple other people from my organization that are here. Deputy Chief Frank Blasky, Deputy Chief Paul Hertzman, and one of my elected officials, Henry Meter. We do have an elected board of 5 members. And the gentleman in a white shirt is our architect, Jason Estes from FGM. So I'm just going to give you kind of a presentation of what the project is. If I bore you ahead of time, I'm sorry. Unlike the mayor, I got to put my glasses on to read. So that's our project. So who are we? Because our name is the Lockport Township Fire Protection District, but we're kind of a little bit bigger than that. So what you have here in front of you is a map, and everything that's in color is protected by the Lockport Township Fire Protection District. And I'm going to move this over here. So right down here, this is 355. Right here is Route 6. So right here is where Silver Cross Hospital is. This area right up here is where Big Run Golf Course is. Up here is Weber Road and 55. 126, Mistwood Golf Course on Renwick Road, and then Crest Hill, Hillcrest Shopping Center, and that. So geographically, the Lockport Township Fire Protection District covers 42 square miles. We're part of 3 different municipalities, Lockport, Crest Hill, and Romeoville. We're in 7 different townships. The population, according to the 2010 census, is 77,000 people. So it's, name-wise, I don't know if it quite fits. We protect that population, that geographic area with 6 different locations. Top left is Station 1, which is what we're going to talk about. Top right is Station 2. And by the way, Station 1 was 1959, 1966 for Station 2 in Crest Hill on Rood Street. Middle left is Station 3, which was 1998 up in Romeoville. Station 4, which is Bruce Road, just off of Briggs Street. That was 2006. Station 5, lower left, is right behind the Target on Weber Road in Romeoville. That was 2007, and then lower right-hand corner, 2009, is our headquarters building out there next to Prairie Bluff. I will ask you to kind of remember Station 4 and 5, because if you look at them, they're twins, and that's going to look a lot like what we get to next. So a little bit of history, because this was not an easy project for my board to go to. It was been 5 years of discussion to get to this point. So you got to talk about history, because, right, this is Lockport. When you talk about Lockport, you talk about history. They go together. So the upper right-hand corner is an actual picture of the fire department downtown Lockport before I was born. I don't know the date. But the lower right-hand corner, that's the actual first fire apparatus that the fire department had back in 1901. The lower left-hand corner is what the fire station was like when it was on 10th Street, right where there's a 3-story, the 100 block of 10th Street, there's a 3-story apartment building there, right behind the shops. And between the Moose and State Street, that was a firehouse. And then right above it is when we were cohabitating with the city down on State Street. So the idea of a fire station is changing and evolving. It happens all the time. This will be the 5th time in the history of the fire department that will be a new firehouse. This is a picture of the firehouse when it was built in 1959. And what I'd like to point out, if you can kind of zoom in on the pictures, I'm going to use this pointer here again, inside here. This vehicle right here is a 1953 fire engine. This one here is a 1955, and this one here is a 1936. And look at how it fills the opening, 1936. And that's kind of important as I kind of transition through my presentation. This is another example, and it's really, I think, a pretty good story, because remember, this building was built in 1959. If you look at the side of this picture, this is 1967. So less than 10 years later, but if you look, here again, I'm going to use this pointer, this is the size of the ambulances we were using back in the 60s. This is that 1955 truck that I was talking about in the first picture. And then we started getting some newer fleet vehicles. These were all bought in the 60s, 63, 65, 68. And already you can see, just when you compare to this one, the vehicles are getting bigger. This is the actual shop drawing of one of the vehicles that we had, those 1960s vintage. They're 22 feet long. This is the shop drawing of the vehicles that we just purchased, and this vehicle is in Station 1 right now. It's 32 feet long, so they keep getting bigger. Here again, top left, another picture of the station when it was built, and for the most part, other than different doors, it looks the same. Top right is one of the first ambulances, and I think this is the ambulance they bought from the Gooddale Funeral Home when the ambulance service moved from the funeral home to the fire department. It's kind of a weird way of saying things. The bottom 2 pictures, if you look at it, the lower left is that 1960s version truck, which is 22 feet long, and then the one on the right, those are the ones we just took delivery of this year, the ones that are 32 feet long. So you can kind of get the image of how vehicles evolve. Top left, the ambulance. Top right, the old ambulance. Top right is the new ambulance. On the bottom left is that 1968 ladder truck that we talked about. Lower right, that's the 2009 ladder truck that we use today. The travel height on that truck is 12'6". The doors at Station 1 are 10'6". So that vehicle does not fit in that building. So some of the problems that we had, and so where this project started. Back in 2010, we went to our board and said, we have to address this building because we went through the growth spurt, and if you remember when I was talking about the buildings, 2007, 2006, 2009, we had a lot happen in a short amount of time. But we had to go back and address Station 1. So we talking about remodeling it. And when you talk about remodeling, brought in our architect, and we've had a relationship with him since the 90s, and he said, you know, hey, when you start getting into this 75% of what a new building costs, he goes, you really need to start thinking about rebuilding. Because, and I think anybody who's a homeowner knows, if you have a $1,000 job in a remodel, once you open the wall, you end up breaking something, cutting something, damaging something, and that $1,000 job turns into a $1,500 job. It's just the nature of the beast. So he says, you really shouldn't think about this. Well, my board thought about it for 5 years. And finally, in early 2015, they made a decision, okay, let's go forward with the idea of replacing the building. So some of the issues that we had with that current building, we have to replace the sewer line. The sewer line in that building runs the entire length of the building. It comes in from the bank, if you're familiar with it, runs under the building and comes up and services a lot of the service rooms, I'll call them, are on toward the intersection. As we started looking at replacing the sewer line, and there's areas where we had it cambered, and there's areas where it does this, where the trucks were backing over for the last 65 years. There's areas in the building where we had drinking fountains that we had to remove because instead of going down the drain, the water was coming up the drain. I've got guys in showers and gals in showers, the water doesn't go down, and we rot it out, and keeps, so we have continuous problems with our sewer. So there's something that we had to, and we started looking at it, and there were very few rooms in the building that we weren't going to be digging up the floors. We had to upgrade the electrical system. 1959. I think everybody can just look in this room. The electrical devices in this room compared to 1959, totally different. The HVAC system, while some of the units have been replaced, the heat that heats the garage area is the exact same heat exchangers that were in there in 1959. We have to address flooding in the rear. I've got a picture later on that shows it, but here again, if you're familiar with it, the whole back end of that building, it's all sloped toward the building because of the elevation. And by the way, the elevation change, there's a 4-foot elevation change from the back sidewalk to the front sidewalk. So everything runs to the building. So when we get heavy rains, we have water coming in our building. This started out as a remodel job because we're trying to remodel the inside, so we still have to do that. Install female and male facilities because, believe it or not, we have 4 female firefighters. That building was built without a female bathroom. In 1959, they just didn't think about it. We have to address those garage doors. Remember I said they were 10'6"? So the new one, we said we have to have 14-foot minimums, but the new ones are actually designed at 16-foot. We've got to replace the concrete up front. We have to put a fire suppression system, which typically is called a sprinkler system. To do a sprinkler system, you got to put a new water main in. We got asbestos in there that needs to be taken out. The building's non-ADA compliant. So the list of things that we had to try to fix this building just kept getting bigger and bigger. And finally, the board said, you know what, we're just going to redo it. So as Ben pointed out, it's a weird shaped piece of property. And here again, I'm not a computer guy. I grabbed this off Google. So, but the property is kind of like a triangle. And this is the back end, and you can see how it's all asphalt, and it all slopes toward the building. And there is this little trench drain back, but that's not nearly enough when it's heavy rain, and that water flows right in that back garage door. You can see patches in the concrete. One thing I do is we are very aware of what happens on the sidewalk at this location. We have somewhere between 25 and 50 kids that use that sidewalk every day to go to school. We reached out and I talked to Dr. Gray at Kelvin Grove twice, explained to her, I sent her all my correspondence. She understands. We said that as part of the project, we understand that sidewalk has to be protected for the kids. Our construction manager's on board. She's on board. So as far as I know, I've met all of her concerns. But one of the other things about this property is we started talking about, okay, when we're going to rebuild, do we rebuild there? And why would you want to rebuild on a site that's a triangle piece, has these setbacks like Mr. Benson was talking about, the 4-foot elevation change from front to rear? Well, the two guys that I mentioned back there, they spent hours and hours and hours going through call data. And what we looked at is, okay, where are the calls being generated? That's where that building needs to be. So those guys who picked that spot back in the late 50s, they were pretty smart guys, because each station has a call area. This particular building, most of the call volume for this building is between Thornton and Division Street, the river, and then 355. So that's where the call is. So that's where it needed to stay. The other thing that we talked about is if we moved, then we were adding the cost of the property to our project, and so we're trying to, be cost control. But the other, final thing about that is, if you go down Plainfield right now, they moved to a new firehouse. What's downtown?
I'm Kelly.
Do solemnly swear or affirm
Do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office
that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office
of Police Sergeant of the City of Lockport, Illinois.
of Police Sergeant of the City of Lockport, Illinois, to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, sir. Nice. All right, everyone, thanks again for everything. Thanks for being here and supporting Sean tonight, you guys. All right, my friends, as I say every time this happens, I will not be offended if everybody leaves now. 'Cause this is-
Hey, did Austin pick a college yet? I know you're a junior, but have you picked a college yet? Not yet?
How cute. Yeah.
All right, a couple things from our liaisons. One thing, I'll give you guys some updates on some stuff that's gone on. Last week we had a TCC meeting. Those are the meetings where we get together with the county and the township of Homer and Lockport and Homer Glen, and we talk about the Caton Farm Bruce Road Bridge extension. One of the concerns that we've had has been, we all agree that we need a high bridge, and it looks like it's going over, in the Bruce Road area. It's kind of how to make some connections. One of the concerns has been how it connects on the far east side. I've been pushing for an intersection at I-355 and to be able to use the northbound lanes to get to 159th Street as the SRA route. We're still working that. I've had conversations with Congressman Lipinski, Congressman Foster. They both understand that that could work and that they like the idea. There's some state and federal red tape that would have to get worked out, but that is something we've been proposing. A new development, though, was the fact that the county is already widening Cedar Road to 4 lanes. It's in their 2030 plan, and last week they, you may have read in an article a couple weeks ago that they were talking about some bridge repair for widening that street as it is, and so we're all like, look, guys, if you're widening it to 4 lanes, what's the purpose in building a new road right next to it? So there seemed to be consensus on that. The other members of the TCC are going to go back to their boards and discuss it. So it's possible that the middle alignment would be exchanged for Cedar Road. So we will see. That's just kind of the updates on the discussion. We also brought on a new member, Pastor Richard House from the Fairmont area, because I know there's a lot of concerns down there as well. So we asked him to be part of the committee so that we can make sure that there's a voice for the concerns on that side of the project as well. So a little update there.
Mayor, did they talk about connecting to 355 at all?
We did. We briefly, the new development with Cedar Road being widened and they're being active about it kind of changed that a bit. But we certainly want to continue to pursue it regardless. But it's not, the bridge project and route should not have to be predicated on whether we're connecting to it anymore, if the Cedar Road is all agreed upon. But quite frankly, that intersection is also in the 2030, 2040 plans for Will County. So it all fits already. It's just part of the discussion we have to keep hammering out.
It'll be an important, transition if we can get them to move off the so-called middle route, which is a proposed new road that really goes through developable lands in Lockport. So we actually have housing companies and commercial companies looking at those lands, but they're not willing to invest until they know what's going on with that route.
So just trying to get that straightened out.
Yeah, that intersection, 355 and Bruce can happen later. If it's going over, they can make that connection later, so get the important stuff done.
And IDOT's already has the land acquisition for that intersection. It's already there. There's no new land that needs to be acquired for it, so.
And we have an access agreement with the tollway currently for that exit someday.
So it makes a lot of sense.
Mayor, a couple months ago, we were talking about possibly moving the toll booth, but it sounds like right now with the Cedar Road development, there's no need to.
Yeah, I think it may not be necessary, so.
Okay.
Okay. So it may end up, all the hoo-ha may just end up melting away, and Cedar Road will be the answer, so.
That would be nice.
All right, anything from our liaisons? Anything going on?
Want to start?
Nope.
No, okay. I do have something. We have finally tweaked the letter that will be going out to all our commercial owners as well as residential owners. And this is just kind of a friendly letter, just letting them know what our position is going to be in reference to beautifying the city of Lockport. What we expect them as residents to do in order to keep their properties up and looking in case we have people coming through our city to think about possibly putting roots down here for businesses or even residents. They do look at what we have to offer and how we look when they come into town. So this letter has been revised slightly to include residential, and I think you've had an opportunity to see this in advance, and was wondering if you have any questions or concerns about the letter going out. It will be going out with the water bills, so that way everyone will get it. And I think that's probably the most inexpensive way possibly to get it out there, so that we don't have to have more expenses with stamps and envelopes and things like that. So does anybody have any questions on those?
Thoughts, concerns? All right.
I like it.
Yeah, I thought it was good.
Good job.
Thank you, Julian.
One of the reasons, Mayor and Council, that we wanted to share with you, we sent it to you by email and hard copy tonight, was once that letter goes out and then police department and staff starts doing enforcement, that we need that to garner that support from the council too, because you may get some calls, and complaints on us trying to, enforce people keeping their grass cut, keeping debris out of their lawns, working with the commercial businesses about temporary signage that's appropriate or not. So we want to bring it to your attention in advance.
And also in our past meeting that we had, the chief did suggest that if we get in residents that really is in destitute, that really doesn't have the funds to, say, clean up their property or fix it up, that perhaps that's where Lockport Love could come in, because that's what it's set up to do. And the chief was kind enough to suggest that perhaps we can utilize that. So, so there is things that we can do for those that truly do need help.
Very good. Thank you both.
So thank you, Chief, for offering that.
Anything else?
One quick update on the comedy/improv club starting on March 24th at the Iron Horse. When I announced it 2 weeks ago, I said 7 p.m. It's actually 8 p.m. You'll see the article in the Legend on page 6, and you could always call the Iron Horse directly for more information on tickets. $10, and the first drink is part of that $10. See you there.
Anything else, guys? Good? Okay. All right. We'll move on. PZ1. What do you got?
Yeah,
Firehouse. If you go downtown Shorewood, they moved to a new location. What's downtown Shorewood? An empty firehouse. They're not a building that a lot of people are looking to move into. This is the floor plan, and the only reason why I'm throwing this up here of the current building is, like I said, there is no female facility, so we took this room right here and we made it a female. You know, we threw a toilet in there, a shower in there, some lockers in there, and the current building is set up where there's 6 garage doors in the front. That's how the design was back in those days. This is the design of the new building, and I think you all have it, but instead of 6 across the front, it's 3 across the front, but it's double deep. Individual bedrooms for the guys, 3 separate toilet areas with bath, shower, and toilet in each one. You know, your typical exercise room, your kitchen, your station office storage, and other stuff that goes along with the building. So, the design of the building. Remember I was talking about 4 and 5, look at that? Very similar look. The reason being here again, we're trying to be cost conscious. We already paid the architect to design that building. So all we did is we just tweaked it a little bit to make it work here. So this one is 3 bays wide instead of 2. And when you look at the design, one of the things that I know that we drove Jason nuts over is we said, hey, we have to put a new building in here, but we want it to kind of reflect what Lockport is. We want that Lockport history. So one of the things that you'll see on there is the number 1, because it's number 1. That's the neighborhood. It's number 1. And an interesting fact about firehouses, it's kind of a joke, but it's true. Nobody wants a firehouse built in their neighborhood because they're noisy. But once they're there, they don't ever want them closed because it's a neighborhood firehouse. The people in the neighborhood take ownership. That's my firehouse. Those are my firemen. So so the number 1 is to say, hey, proud of the neighborhood. The other thing that you'll see in here is 7 arches. So our architect reached in and he says, hey, that 7-arch bridge under the old, so let's bring that 7-arch concept into the front of the building. So it's the same building, but you got that 7 arches across the front. We put the cupola on top because if you looked at that building when we were down on State Street, they had the old cupola on top. So we're trying to bring in these different avenues of history and put them in top of a new building and on we think is a main corridor into Lockport. So just some other different views of the building, architectural views. An overhead view just showing how this is going to be placed on the property. And just so you know, if you have any questions on this, I'm going to bring Jason up here because this is his job, not mine. But we did focus a lot on, you know, meeting the city's requirement for landscaping. There's a lot more landscaping on here. Even though the building looks bigger, the footprint is smaller. And that's what it should look like when it's done. So I'm sorry for the long presentation, but I just wanted to share with the city council and anybody else that there was a lot of thought that went into this. It wasn't just a matter of, hey, let's knock it down and build something else.
Very interesting. Thanks, Chief. I appreciate it. You guys up here have any questions? Joanne, Bob?
I was at the first presentation at the Planning and Zoning meeting, and so this is my second time that I've heard it, and it doesn't get boring. I think it's got a lot of history, and congratulations that you finally have come to this place that you know, you're able to build it and fix it up.
Thank you.
So I'm okay with it because the presentation was great. It explains everything. It's going to be a nice look to it.
Very nice, Chief. Just a quick question for you. I'm sure after 5 years of your analysis and thoughts into this project, I assume looking into the future, the design of this building, like the 16-foot doors, it's going to accommodate future fire trucks. I can't imagine them getting any bigger, but I'm sure in the 50s they never would have imagined the trucks today being as big as they are and as long as they are. At the current design as proposed, will that accommodate future growth of these fire trucks?
The best answer I can say is I hope so. Because, but you're exactly right. People in the 50s, if you tell them that the vehicle was like that ladder truck, you know, 12'6" tall and 40 foot long, they would think you were crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they just keep getting bigger.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw it out just to make sure there's enough room. I know it's a very tight space at that particular location, but I'm sure there's going to be future growth of those fire trucks. And I'd like to also take this opportunity, just on a little tangent, whenever a local school will contact me, hey, I need a fire truck to go to the local school, I'll send a text to the chief, and he always makes sure, if available, the truck will be at the local school so the kids could enjoy the firemen and the truck. So thank you very much for some of those short notices I've given you in the past, so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Chief, with the illustrations that you showed of past and present, will those be at the fire station that people, if they come in or whatever, they can see that. I think there's a nice little history there that you could display, if that's a possibility.
There's one interior wall, the main interior wall as you come in, and we've been talking with Jason. I don't, is it finalized or I don't know. Okay. So, but you bring up a very good point. We want to make sure we incorporate tradition of what the building is and
Right.
what it was.
Right.
So there's going to be something along there. We talked about having maybe a picture of each building as it evolved, maybe even putting a couple bricks from the existing building in there. So there's a lot of ideas, but cost is going to control
That's a
it.
good idea, yeah, great.
JR, you got any thoughts?
I think it's fantastic. I'm not here, I wasn't part of the design stage, but if you would consider, for your 32 square foot message center, I don't know if you even thought about matching the new Lockport signs that are gonna be going up. I think that'd be a nice possible addition. I don't know how it'd look next to a new fire station, but other than that, it looks great to me. But if you would consider maybe looking the design of our new signs, maybe that might be a additional feature. Other than that, that's about it.
We can hook you up, Jason, with Ben.
I'll send him an email.
Inform you on what those are. Maybe there's some elements. I think it's a good idea, if possible. Chris, you got any thoughts?
Thank you for that presentation. I thought it was great and well thought. I love the history about it. It's showing what it's been and what it's come to. Thank you.
Thank you.
Big Jim?
I get to ask the tough questions, so Jason, come on up here. Chief, while he's coming up here, I mean, I want to thank you for answering a lot of the questions, because that was probably one of my first ones, being like, why would you want to stay there, build there? Because we were even talking about, like, there's other property that you can swap, still stay in, in operation while you're swapping and doing that. But I know you got the large antenna, keeping that intact. You've got a lot of work to do on this one site, so I understand that. So for Jason here, I get to grill him on some of the questions.
Yes, sir.
Can you pull up the site plan, please?
That one.
All right. Next to the bays, and these were some of the questions that I got through planning and zoning. Planning is not here right now. To the west, right where your arrow is right now, what is that bay, that area intended for?
That is a concrete pad. Basically, it is to be able to house a storage in a short-term condition. So if they're doing a specific training or response condition, that they would have something, be able to have a space here to park it on a weekly basis if there is something of a need, or a daily basis, that then is not disrupting the emergency flow given the limited amount of site on the property. The thought was to try to tuck that in behind the fencing for the tower condition, and try to maximize the screening while keeping it out of the way of every other usable space on this site.
So I see a curb, right?
It's a depressed curb, so the idea being that, again, you'd feel it more as I'll call it a speed bump as you're backing up through the parking spaces itself, to be able to put that unit there, or whatever it is that they have in that spot.
Okay, so that may be something parked there for a short-term or long-term period.
The operations are obviously on the district, as far as the ability to have somewhere to keep the way. As you notice, there's also very limited parking in here. So at shift change, if they're utilizing all 6 bunks, 12 parking spaces at shift change, it may be a spillover of cars there in the short term until the people come off shift, and then they can get back into the parking spaces themselves.
Okay, as we're moving north, looks like what it was, an existing drive, yep.
Over here.
You're right on it.
Yeah, that area right there is actually, right now it's damaged asphalt and gravel for the most part. It is the easement that actually accesses for the tower and to the existing building that's out there that services the tower. So it's all utilities easement that doesn't allow us to actually build or put anything there. In the plan, the intent is to improve that condition and get it back to a true finished asphalt condition, with the idea that it can be chewed up in the future if they need access. But at least it gets the whole site improved at one condition.
What is your agreement? That's just for the tower, getting access to the radio tower? Not a daily...
No, that's for the land lease for the tower. we had to provide them with an easement.
Okay.
There are not cell tower people there maybe twice, 3 times a year.
Sure. And that's where, part of it was where I was going, that at planning and zoning, there were some ideas of making this work with all the setbacks and turning it. We never got that drawing, and I'm sure you've done all your homework and exhausted I know there's going to be setbacks, so I get that completely. You probably heard the letter that Trustee Joanne was talking, Bartleson, sorry, was talking about, like cleaning up our corridors, and part of that is 159th Street. That's for everywhere on 159th Street, you'll see both sides of this. So looking at what's stored there, what's screening, we're trying to work on all that. If there's equipment that's going to be there and it's going to be there a long time, even an older truck, whatever it may be, that we want to make sure that we're working with staff to make sure it's screened properly, accessed properly. But if there's opportunities that you didn't need that storage, that gives your whole building, right, you can get building away from some of the setbacks, the sidewalks up in the north?
There is some limitation with that. That building, really, when we were working with how to angle the building on the site, because ideally, if I was designing a new fire station, I would like it 90 degrees to the actual emergency access.
Agreed.
I want to be able to not have to turn my head backwards as we're discharging. Given the fact that we're on the angle and how we're dealing with the site, the pivot point, I'll say, was right here. We'll call it the northwest corner, because of the proximity to the grades and proximity to that existing building. As the chief said earlier, and actually I'll correct him a little bit on that, is there's about 8 feet of drop across from 7th to 9th Street, not 4 feet. And that building is already set at that point. To try to move the utilities is a large issue.
I agree.
So keeping it off that point is important to be able to build this. If you actually look at the new grades, we're actually using the rear of the station as retaining wall. So we're picking up about 4 to 5 feet at the back of the station itself. As such, I need to maintain at least 10 foot of clearance around to be able to scaffold this. This is all brick, block, masonry construction. So as we started trying to, even if I want to lift and let's say not take that pad that's on the west side of the facility, I now have to move forward towards 9th Street, and I start losing whether it be parking or apron space as we go through. If you look, this line right here is actual property, and that really starts the setback dealing with Route 7 from IDOT. So the amount of apron displaying out there right now that you think that there's tons of property is actually a lot less than actually is available. Right. So it is difficult in looking at it, and when we were angling it in different directions, as I think one of the solutions was, is there a way to square it up on 7th Street initially during the initial presentation?
Sure.
I obviously looking at that, you know, if you're going to look east on 9th Street, trying to respond to an emergency call. Right. So the angle was able to give us a little bit of comfort level on the exit discharge, and still, as you said, it becomes a 3-sided station. You're seeing it from all angles. So we wanted to make sure that we at least gave good presentation on the public image and the aesthetics as well.
Thank you for explaining that. So with that, if we take any opportunities we can to get stuff out of the setbacks and stuff, I know you're working with landmines here, right? You're working around the whole thing. With that northern access and with the parking lot that's not on the northern side and the garbage center or whatever is there, you've increased that apron, that drive now 4 times as wide as it was originally. Can you guys work with staff and maybe that garbage moves over to that parking island that's there, use that drive, that right, since you only need it 2 or 3 times a year for parking?
We had looked at the trash enclosure, trying to move it over to the west side of the property initially. Obviously, it's not ideal. There's not a lot of land there as we were going through it. There is grade difference as we were talking about because we level out. Actually, this is a retaining wall extension off the building. So from that island coming down to the existing building there, the existing tower building there, that is heavy slope to be able to try to pick up some of those grades. So having to put a trash enclosure there, build it up, retain, was one of those things that wasn't quite ideal, and we were potentially encroaching on that easement condition that we really wanted to stay away from. What we did do on the parking is normal spaces, we extended them by 2 to 3 feet so that you were further off of the sidewalk. These spaces are typically going to be the firefighter shift spaces. So they're coming on and leaving at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, and at that point, those vehicles would be staying there for the day. So it's not an in and out, let's say, for a commercial use. So ideally, yes, we would like to be able to have the parking fully off of the street. It was kind of a trade-off to be able to say, well, if we keep the shift parking there, then it's not in and out. We're not expanding past. The trash enclosure, it ended up being put, because of the retaining on the north side of the building, we tried to keep it as level as possible for access. They've had a lot of problems with the pavement and things in those existing facilities. So we wanted to make sure that we can get something solid, and as we were working with it, it will completely match. It's fully brick, fully stone. As we were going through this, it will blend completely in with the building. That is a high priority in anything that we do, especially as forefront on 7th Street that we're talking about.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll look great. I'm just trying to minimize the amount of asphalt you got. And you guys have done a great job. There's more impervious area here. I get it. There's more landscaping. Just, they're like Kelvin Grove, right? The teachers, everyone's coming past there. All the kids are coming past there, and here's a garbage thing that's right up against the sidewalk. It's not the ideal condition. I know you got landmines everywhere. If there's somewhere you can do it so it's not as visible, it's not close to the neighbors, it's not close to the kids walking, if you can tuck it, put it in somewhere, because it has foundations, you're doing it already. If you can put it in the bank and use that to kind of separate some of your stuff. Just if you can do that exercise and work with Pam from Planning and Zoning, just see if you can work that, kind of limit that curb cut, just do something there. Other than that, I think, you've had a lot of things to worry about here. And then signage, it's up to the city. I mean, I know it's your variance with the signage. I don't know if Ben knows the exact size of what the original ordinances are.
16 feet, and then they're going to 32, so they're requesting to double the size of the current ordinance.
So these are things for council to kind of think about, because if other people are asking and saying, no offense to you guys, right? Stations asking for a bigger sign, they've got it right down the street. Let's all start adding bigger signs. You're setting precedents.
And the sign is the one that's up in the upper left
Right.
corner, or the
Right.
upper right corner?
In the farthest corner of the triangle, kitty corner from there, if you recall, there's a sign that does meet the ordinance for the Euro shop, and then I think there's one more on that corridor. I guess I would speak to this a little bit in regards to, staff talked about this a little bit, that, in the spirit of intergovernmental cooperation, that we would, get on board for this. The LED messages are much more capable when they're a little bit larger. They're going to be issuing amber alerts, weather alerts. We're also going to be doing this sort of thing at our own monument sign out at 159th, which was also approved at a little bit larger than we would typically. And if we field calls, staff, or I'll take the calls myself in regards to explaining why that, being a government entity might entitle them to a little bit larger sign than we would if Bob's Muffler Shop came in and wanted to have a giant sign.
It's more of a public service
the public-
sign than it is a personal advertisement sign. And I know that we probably will get calls on that, but
And that's
There's not a
exact-
right or wrong, it's just that we need to be consistent and,
Chief, you may put it in, but we're going to get the calls. So how to combat that and say, there's precedence, this light is blinking now in my house. Why did the city let the chief do that? So if you can field all those calls and be here at every board meeting.
keep in mind too, the LED technology is there's no animation with this, and it can only move the slide every so often. I think it's every 8 to 10 seconds. The sign is also orientated towards the intersection, which is a better read. Before, I think the current static sign is kind of more perpendicular, and it faces 7th and 9th, where this one will section, which we felt better about, because frankly you've got a house on one side and 2 houses up the hill behind the other one, and we felt that if they were going to do an LED with the existing sign facing, that wouldn't be too good. There might be a light wash that we were worrying about, but with the directional sign kind of facing the intersection, with the streetlights, that it probably, the impact will be minimal.
One other request, if you're building any other, no, for you, you don't have any others in Lockport, right, that you'd be working on?
No, out of the 6 buildings, 2 are in Lockport, 2 are in Crest Hill, and 2 are in Romaville.
2 in Lockport now, after this would be done?
Yes.
Okay.
Great presentation, Chief. I very much appreciate you considering, the history of Lockport and incorporating it into the building with the, I know some pictures had the cupola, some didn't. You guys are going to keep that? I liked it.
The cupola's in. When the architect originally drew it, it wasn't there, so he had to be reminded.
Very good. No, I think it looks great. I think it'll be a great fit within the city. Thank you, Jim, for your thorough questions. I think appreciate you thinking through all this stuff. Yeah, I think one thing about, I think Jim brought up a good point about the kind of temporary parking or piece on the side. Is right. If it's, need to be considerate of it. I don't see your Winnebago out there, Park that in Crest Hill, all right? So, my question to you, though, is I had two. The curbs, can you walk across the driveway and then across the bank, or how does that curb work? Because I think the curb goes right to the edge of the street now on that.
The area that you're talking about right now, the current sidewalk actually comes kind of in the middle of, I'll call the parkway, and then it disappears across the actual apron, which is much wider than we're showing now, and then it reappears right against 9th Street as a carriage walk. So what we proposed is transitioning that to the carriage walk, and then we would stripe this condition across the apron itself, defining the actual walk as a carriage walk along the actual apron.
How do you, I mean, it's so close to 9th, it's so busy. I mean, I know that you're butting into Harris Banks, as you call it, a carriage walk. I don't think it's a
Can you
great...
transition on that western island? Kind of bring that...
Can it be transitioned over there? It could be altered. It's just a matter of making an adjustment back to the existing
Perhaps we
walk.
could reach out to Harris and see if we can't get the curb pushed. I mean, it's so close to 9th, it's just like, it seems a little ridiculous. Maybe we can work with them to...
You could see the line to the east, right? And then they're kind of transitioning down south to get to that. So if maybe we can keep that line going all the way across, keep kids from walking close.
Yeah, honestly, instead of, I see what you're doing. You're fading down to meet up with the sidewalk when it gets in front of Harris. Personally, I'd rather see if we could work with Harris to get the sidewalk pushed back up away from the street, and that way you don't have to transition so close to 9th.
There are some grade conditions in looking at it and dealing with IDOT and how they wanted us to approach some of the easement.
Okay.
I know it is in review with IDOT for the most part, and I believe it's almost finalized on the condition. But this access, dealing with trying to meet accessibility through here, and then as far as the apron itself coming out, again, we try to keep about a 2% slope just because, as the chief said, the vehicles are much bigger, there's hooks and things hanging out, and if you come out too fast, you end up taking the ridge on the road out with lots of gouges. If you see some of the old stations, anywhere you drive around, you see the gouges in front, there's a reason for that. So trying to address some of those, but as far as if there's an ability to be able to relook at that condition, I think that would be acceptable.
Ben, you were going to say something?
Just wanted to clarify also that in their permit application with IDOT, that the city did agree to take, in the right-of-way, IDOT wanted the city to take responsibility for a little corner clip of the sidewalk itself, so we've agreed to do that in their application process.
Okay. All right. Well, you guys see where I'm going. If we keep the sidewalk further from the street and make it a little more, because we've been working real hard to get sidewalks from here all the way to 355. This seems like kind of a little bit of a breakup point or a spot.
And I can tell you, Mr. Mayor, when I saw that, I asked Jason the same thing. I said, what are you doing? And when he explained to me that he was trying to match up the west side of the property, it made sense to me, but I understand what you're asking, move it down farther,
or maybe we can work with Harris to shift on that
Keep
side.
going. My understanding, you guys are almost ready to go out to bid too?
Plans are actually out to bid currently. We have received some bids on demolition, and then the construction manager should be collecting the remainder of bids next week sometime.
Question, and I know this is operational, it's not really on us, but how do you see with disruption of service? Where are you guys going to be while this is going on?
Sure.
The old parking lot?
Yeah, the dual park.
Yeah, well, the reality is, there's no way that you can not have something like this not affect service, because there's two different ways of doing it. You can either vacate the site or else try to inhabit at the same time that the work's being, and that doesn't work. So here again, we came up with 6 different deployment models. It's like, how are we gonna deal with this? And looked at call volume and where to go. We looked at cohabitating in a different firehouse with a neighboring town, different options. But what we came up with is, currently assigned in this building, there's a fire truck and an ambulance. And we're gonna split them. So the ambulance that's in this building today is gonna move over to Station 6, which is on Renwick Road. The fire truck is gonna move down to Bruce Road. And then we also have verbal agreements, because we don't need them, handshakes are fine, with Homer and Northwest Homer, which are east and north. And both said they're gonna help us out any way we can. So it's gonna kinda be like the spoke response. We'll be coming out inward, and then our neighbors will be coming in also to help us.
Chief, I had asked if you're working with other municipalities, doing other stations and stuff, and Jason, I know you guys are good at it too, but get this stuff in front of us sooner. I mean, you guys, and I hear that at planning and zoning, you guys are out to bid, right? That kind of puts the pressure on planning and zoning. It's undue pressure to say, we can't hold this up. So, and some of these ideas could have been incorporated in your bid, they didn't have to be redrawn. So if you guys can push those, reviews with the municipalities sooner, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Sure.
Well, gents, like I said, very exciting. Is this something that we need to put on for an action item next?
Yeah, Mayor, we're seeking the approval, so basically, if I recap here, they're seeking approval for the following: a final site plan, the final building elevations, final landscape plan, final engineering, and the special use permit for the planned commercial development to operate the firehouse. And staff is, seeking direction to put this on the April 6th City Council agenda for action. I would recommend maybe, we leave it as a voting item, and maybe they can, some of these questions, they can kind of digest and bring something back to us in 2 weeks for the final approval.
Sure. I'm okay with that. How does everybody feel?
Yep.
Agree?
All right?
Yep.
All right, gents, thank you so much.
Okay.
Thanks, guys. Tell Henry back there not to wait 5 years to do a station again.
All right, what else you got, Ben?
That was a long one. Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. The next item should be brief here. This is the extension of a lease agreement with Metra Station with the operator Commuter's Cup. Commuter's Cup has been occupying this space since January of 2010. Their current lease will be expiring in July of this year. We've spoken to the owner, Emily, and I think she's, okay, somebody's here from representing them. Doesn't look like Emily, but it's got to be the other half. So, staff has reviewed the situation and spoke to them. They would appreciate the opportunity to extend this. Administration agrees that it's a good use for the space. This allows them to extend the lease until 2019. So this basically becomes a 1-year lease with the option for 2 more, and it would be effective on August 1st, 2016.
Okay. You guys have any questions up here on council about it?
Yeah, the only question I had, I asked Ben, is are we missing anybody that would ever say, hey, I'm in town, I want to sell coffee also, can you extend that lease to us? I know it's a small lease, it's small dollars, but I want to ask that question of what does the council want to do in terms of, we're happy with the service, and there's nothing against you guys and doing any of that stuff, but again, community is going to call us and complain and say, you extended the lease.
Yeah, so what Jim brought up, and he and I spoke on the phone the other day about it, was that, do we have a fiduciary responsibility as a government entity to offer this space to the highest bidder, so to speak? And we did, discuss that, and we just felt that as an existing tenant that, we should honor the extension of an opportunity for them. They've been a good tenant. They take good care of the space. We aren't proposing an increase on their rent either at this time. That's something you could consider if you wanted to do. But I think it's meant to be a service and maybe a mini oasis for the patrons that visit our train station, and as we all compete for those riderships as other stations come online and more trains. We've also added Wi-Fi to the location most recently, by the way, so I just think it's a benefit to having people park there, which we also earn revenue from.
And we're not tying this up for 10 or 15 years either.
Right.
It's, you know, a 1-year lease with 2 options. I mean, I think if somebody else does come through and seeks the space, it's not like it's a long time to wait.
I mean, I certainly would have done that and went to bid if they went out of business or they were leaving or some scenario like that we would have put up an ad in the paper or something like that. But I think with the existing operation, that we're fine.
Does the lease provide for notice a certain period of time, like 60 days, 90 days, or whatever? If they decide to vacate, then we have an opportunity to get started on finding another tenant?
Yes, I believe there's a provision in here about termination, 30 days notice.
30 days, okay. Is that on both sides?
Yeah.
All right, I don't have a problem. I think it's fine. And you're right, we just put the free Wi-Fi in there for the station. I think that's great. Oh, and I forgot to mention that, under the mayor's report, and we have that new afternoon train now.
Yeah.
So we got to see that come in, and a couple days ago, the first one. So good job to Mayor Reeves, who's on the Metra board from Lamont, and Dan Lipinski and Larry Walsh. All those guys worked really hard to get us an extra train. It's the first new train in 18 years. So they've all vowed to not make another 18 years go by before we get another one. So we'll keep working on that.
Thank goodness.
And that's part of making sure the station is, and Romeoville's bringing on their new station. So making sure that we have that kind of, it's comfortable. I think having the place to get the coffee is good. The Commuter's Cup, I think, adds to the value of people using the station. So I'm all for it. I have no problem. So
We'll be seeking the the extension of the lease agreement and approval of the resolution for the council on April 6, 2016, for the approval of the 1-year lease with the option for 2 more. I think consent would be fine if you guys are comfortable with that.
I'm okay on an action item. Is everybody all right with that?
That's fine.
Any concerns? Okay. All right, man. Thanks.
If I have any concerns, is there anything I can say at this time?
Yeah, what? Sit up here and talk. Yeah.
The city's been great with everything. The station's been great. I don't know if you guys remember, Joliet not too long ago did a whole bunch of construction on their train station, which shut down their parking over there. We had a lot of people come to the Lockport station because they couldn't park there, which I think kind of due to the way it is set up in Lockport, the parking's great. You got kind of 2 locations on either side of the tracks kind of to park. The price of the parking's great. I had a lot of people who now don't go back to Joliet. They now ride in Lockport because easier to park, easier getting off. From what I heard, better coffee. But everything's been really good. The only thing that my wife and I have been trying to see if we could possibly get some help on is the toilets. They're nasty. The water in Lockport, I know, everybody knows the water is just amazing here. So I think that I have a picture of it if anybody wants to see it. The one toilet that everybody does use that, there's one for us that's behind the counter, kind of in the back storage room. I had to turn the water off because the guts inside of the toilet they're rusted, completely gone. The other toilet, I think it was just left so long before the building was maybe people got back into it. If you want to see the pictures, men may not mind using it, but if you're a woman, you don't want to sit on it. I've tried to clean it every which way you can. It's clean, but it sure doesn't look like it. The inside is just black. It's gross. So I've tried everything, even a hammer and a screwdriver, and didn't want to break the toilet, but that's about the only way you can get the black line off the inside.
Yeah,
So
we'll take care of that.
Yeah,
That's our
appreciate,
responsibility.
I had no idea, so we can certainly take a look at that.
that and the doors, if anybody, I know we've gone over the doors a million times in the past, and we're always told that they will not fix the doors because then it ruins the historical part of the building, because they're wood doors and everything else. But the problem that we have is people can't get in. The doors swell, wood frame, wood doors. It just doesn't work. I mean, you get down there, you grab a hold of the door, you can about rip your arm off. So what I have to do is prop the doors open. So even in the winter time, doors are propped open. We've asked for years and years and years. All we got was a new lock. So door problem's still there. Other than that, no complaints. I love Lockport.
Well, we'll certainly get the toilet fixed. Thanks, sir. I mean, I don't use them, so I didn't know.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
we'll
And
send.
nobody really, not a lot of people do. When you go in there, it's kind of like the whole place is inviting. Somebody says, "Do you have a restroom?" "Yeah, back here to the left." And I just think,
You hear a screech in the
you know what I
back.
mean? Yeah, you just don't want them to even kind of go in there.
No
So,
problem. We'll take
Yeah.
care of that. And as far as the door, I do want to make sure we maintain the historical integrity of the station, so we'll see what we can do.
We can look into both. Maybe there's some shimming or some things we can do. We can hire a locksmith to take a look at it. We had some problems with the soaring door as well recently. We went into that. So I would say let's, now that we're aware of those issues, we'll take a good look at it. I think we may want to do something more substantial if it's as bad as it sounds, and we'll get some estimates, and I can come back to the council. It may be something we need to budget for in 2017. It sounds like to me we may want to have something substantial done.
And
There could be something we could do.
between you and Tom, is this Metra maintained? We maintain?
I think it's our station.
I think it's our, yeah.
It's
You maintain?
Yeah. We get to use.
I know
some of
Metra's
the
been
Metro
going up and
funds.
down the line doing a lot of renovations too.
Well, we can reach out to them and talk to them about public space and see if they have anything, but maybe there's some grants available, but I think we can have some, obviously take a look at the functionality of it and then see if we can't find some way to possibly budget for some funds to do something more elaborate, to make it more inviting, to make it more accessible. Though we're probably talking tens of thousands of dollars, but I think it's something we can budget for in 2017, and it's important for the ridership and the users. So.
You actually just said grants. The Metra's big on ADA grants right now,
Yeah.
trying to maintain their station. So, and that door not opening is an ADA issue.
All right, sounds good.
We can
And
do it.
Bob Peretta informed me that he still wants to see those pictures of the toilets on the side. Sorry, man, Darren's not here. I gotta. All right,
Go to the right. Keep going to the right.
all right, all good?
all right, thanks, man.
All right, thank you.
All right,
Every day, 5:30 to 7:30.
all right, man. All right, what else you got? CA2?
Yes, thank you. Mayor and members of the council, the next item is CA2. It's a renewal, basically, this is a renewal of an amendment that's been proposed to you for the intergovernmental agreement we have with the Will County for operating the recycling center we have at Prime Boulevard. So in your packet, we had a draft, basically a draft agreement from the county. Tom had spent some time looking into it, and we were proposing an amendment. What you're going to get from us is probably one combined document here, but I wanted to at least show you the two conversations that were going in regards to operating this. I'm not sure if you're all aware, but the Will County Land Use Department, has been operating recycling centers all over Will County. Their contract with their recycler kind of fell through. They're kind of redoing how they're doing things. They will be reducing the recycling centers to 2 open locations right now with limited time and hours. They're going to be redoing these agreements with other cities to try to re-expand the base again, but for a limited amount of time, us and like one other location will be the only location open in Will County to accept these recycling items, specialized items. So due to those funding changes, they're also looking to partner more with the cities. I did talk to Joe Cronin and Joe Finley about what we've been doing with our past agreement. We've had an agreement with them since 2013. And we haven't spent a whole lot of time on it. We have given them space and maybe helped someone, an elderly, coming to trying to drop off a TV or something like that. Certainly, if we see that, we pitch in. But in this new scenario with 2 days a week with limited hours, the county is not only going to help provide us with some rent for the space to expand the containers, but also offer some money for equipment that we may need. So there's potential for $15,000 a year, about $1,000 a month in rent that we will receive. They will also be providing their own employees to staff the centers, because I think there's some concern that there's some expenses with the county in regards to recycling these products, and they don't want, this is for Will County residents that pay for this, and they're going to have somebody there checking IDs now, so people from DuPage County, Cook County can't come here and drop off their TVs, free of service. So, yeah, it's just, it's amazing. Who would have thunk it? So basically, we have an agreement with them now. We're expanding the agreement, but we're limiting the use, and then we're going to earn a few dollars in the process for working with them. And I've got, again, those 2 documents are in here. One is the original recycling. In your packet, I gave the actual original recycling agreement we have with them, the new proposed agreement, and then Tom's addendum. And what I'll have for you in 2 weeks will be one agreement with basically those 2 agreements combined together with their comments.
Okay. Were there any thoughts, concerns about this?
Yeah, Mike?
Still have it available. I think there's a need for that, and that's great that we have one so close.
My concern is the 2 days. Where it's located now is not locked. I mean, so how are you going to stop people? Now you're going to tell people they can't get in there and drop off a TV or do whatever they need. I mean, it just seems like it's going to be very hard to police to narrow down these hours. Are we limited to the 2 days just because of them
Providing their
the
employees.
staff? I mean, is Lockport willing to keep it open the other days? I mean, I just feel like it's very difficult for people to know, oh, what day can I go over there? What day can't I go over? I mean, I almost think you have to be open Monday through Friday to drop it off. Just seems like the hours that we're being held to are very limited or limited.
People could show up and leave an item. I mean, that's certainly a concern when there's no one there to staff it, or, after hours.
We're talking about the spot at Public Works.
Correct, Prime Boulevard.
And it's behind the fence. I know I've gone to drop off stuff the last couple of weekends, that's been closed, so.
You can drive right through the fence anytime you want. I mean,
I was at the Will County Governmental League meeting where they were talking about it with Will County, and it's not about, they're trying to limit how much they're actually receiving, because they actually take it, recycle it, send it off, and they sell it, and they're not getting enough money for it these days with oil being down and everything else. So that's why they're kind of limiting some of that stuff also, being like, hey, we can't just keep doing the recycling and everything, and the county's cutting, everyone's cutting, so.
So you're saying that when you talk to them, they were limiting the hours just to restrict the flow of stuff?
They're restricting a lot of things. This is just waste. They're saying we can't afford X amount. We can't have it just open all the time. That's there. They were closing a bunch of areas, so it's down to 2.
Yeah.
Right? They're putting a lot of the burden, even saying, well, if the municipalities want to do it and have something local, we're lucky we do have there, but you can go to Waste Management and they have a program. But those are programs that we have to pay and pass on that.
You could add to our current waste management contract with an addendum. I think they offer $1.50 per household.
I negotiate them down to $1.
We could try to
No, yeah,
negotiate
I guess I
So you could add
understand.
to their billing. You could pick up recycling in every household for $1.50 a month.
It's a program that you leave it in a clear bag at your doorstep.
Yeah.
You can't put it on public property. They will come and pick it up. So I don't think we need that, but,
Well,
And they charge you?
yeah.
Well, it would be charged to the city, and we would have to put that on the water, yeah.
all right, so I understand they're trying to reduce cost, and that's why they restrict hours. But did I hear that right? I still wasn't sure.
Tuesday and Friday from 6 a.m. to 11.
That was because they were getting too much that they couldn't handle?
Part of the reason it was too much, they were actually paying, from that meeting was,
And then the other thing is they want to ID the people.
Right.
Yeah.
because it's not like, if it was a profitable program, they'd say, Cook and Grundy, come and drop your stuff off here, go
right.
ahead. But now they're limiting who's dropping off
So that
and
may
what
be
they're
one of the
dropping off.
reasons we have restricted hours.
So I haven't been there. Is it enclosed with a fence or?
There's a Public Works fence, and then right inside the Public Works fence, there's a couple of those containers that we were talking about, like the fire training systems
Okay.
that are just
So if it's
open.
closed, it's fenced off and you
Yeah,
can't.
but someone could just leave it on the doorstep.
Right, but
Like
what are
those-
the,
Yeah.
what are the hours right now? It's not 24 hours right now.
It's
is
just
it?
No, it's
Public Works
not.
hours.
I think
there-
it's 7 to 3:30, I think, daily.
So is there a problem right now with people coming after 4 p.m. when it's closed and leaving
But
it?
you're going to be reducing centers and drop-off times. So right now, it's 5 days a week, 7 to 3:30, and there's multiple drop-off centers Will County-wide. Now, there's only going to be 2 centers Will County-wide. For now, they're working on getting
Right.
additional ones, and then it'll be 2 days a week. So they said they're going to be doing a lot of advertising and marketing of this. We'll do it as well, but as we know, people will show up on a Thursday.
We could put a big sign up on the
Yeah.
gate right there that says
True.
open.
You bet.
These are the days and times.
There's nothing really to stop a person from going through the fence, because Public Works keeps it open during the day, so they can get their trucks in and out of there. So any person stopping there during the day can just drive in and drop something off and get out of there.
Drop it in front of the
That's how it
trailer.
works right now, so.
Right.
Drop it in front of
Well, we're going to have to lock it now that you said that publicly.
So I just,
Well, yeah, I think it would be nice to be able to have it more accessible. I understand why they're doing what they're doing, I guess. And you're always going to get somebody sticking it outside the fence. I mean, it's just what it is.
I appreciate that Will County's actually going to staff it.
Yeah, I know.
They're going to staff it, they're going to
Surprised.
provide us with a small stipend to help with the hassles that may come with this, so we can kind of evaluate it as we go. I mean,
Well, why don't, that's fine, let's do it. I say, you know, if it becomes problematic and there's a great demand for it to be open more, you know.
There's 60-day outs for either party if
Okay.
we decide that it's becoming too much of a hassle and things are just being dumped all over Public Works yard.
I'd be interested to see how much, since it's only 2 days a week, how much traffic we would get, like regionally, like in that parking lot with
And
the
we do
staff
have
parking.
cameras and, in place and everything now, so we can catch JR when he goes in there.
Well, my suggestion is we put it on as an action, or a consent agenda, but, you know, we'll keep an eye on it. We'll see how it goes over the next few months, how it works out.
And we will be, and just make sure we will be proposing, it'll be a newer document than you're seeing now. It's kind of a combination of the two. So before you vote on consent for it, make sure you review it.
Okay. And then, Chief, you talk about some vehicles?
Mayor, council members, PCH 1 is a request from the police department to spend up to $12,000 for the purchase of a John Deere Gator 825i all-terrain vehicle through the Rock Island County Purchasing Cooperative, which is about 17% under list price. Again, we're going to be using C's funds. The reason I'm making the request today is we did not particularly budget for this item. We are going to redesignate some of the funds we do have in our budget. And I'd be glad to talk about why we need this vehicle, if that's okay.
Yeah, please.
We currently have an ATV that's a seized vehicle. It's unreliable, and a typical scenario is that we get a complaint of ATVs driving in an open field or an area inaccessible to our squad cars. So the officer has to drive back to the police station, hook up a trailer, put the ATV on it, and go there. Well, this vehicle is so unreliable now that it doesn't start half the time. This John Deere Gator travels at over 30 miles an hour, so we don't need a trailer for it. You can immediately address the situation. Also,
It's street worthy, you can
Yes.
take it right, okay.
Yep. And it's also an ATV, so it can also it's a four-wheeler, so it can drive in inaccessible areas as well. Also, just recently, we moved our workout room. We're trying to get away from the donut, theory of police officers. So we moved our workout room to the back building with our garage. We have 3 long bays in our garage in our back building, and they're 2 or 3 car lengths long, so really 6 bays. So we took up 2 of those bays, which means we also need more room for the garage to store our some of our sensitive evidence and vehicles. We also offered the workout room to all city employees in our wellness program, and Lisa got us some equipment from our insurance company, so we have a really nice workout room for all city employees. We had our open house on Tuesday. The problem is now we've run out of room. So by doing this, by purchasing this vehicle, we can get rid of our mower. We have a big, expensive mower deck that attaches to our lawn, our John Deere tractor that's 20 years old, and that's on its last legs as well. We also have the current ATV. We have a snow plow that attaches to the tractor, and then we have a trailer. We're going to get rid of all of them. That's 5 pieces of equipment with this one piece. We're going to replace it with one piece. And eventually we're going to buy a plow for that vehicle because we have a truck that plows our lot, but we don't have anything that does the sidewalk. And as Lisa suggested, we would offer that to Public Works before we surplus it. But we estimate we would get about $5,000 to $6,000 when we surplus all those vehicles that we don't use currently. I'd be glad to take any questions.
Anyone?
Just the one thing that was in your write-up that you didn't just point out too is, or maybe you did and I missed it, but the officer safety too. With the ATVs, you could only have one officer on it. So if you are dispatched, it's better to have 2 officers, which this Gator is able to accommodate. So I think that's worth pointing out as well.
And I think because it only seats one person, that the officers don't use as much as they would normally. Because if they do encounter somebody or multiple people on these ATVs in a remote area, there's no backup.
You got 2 guys on there?
It's a 2-person, yeah, it's a 2-person vehicle.
Okay.
too thin guys, Mayor, you know, because we're gonna do this.
The workout room is full, right. All right, any concerns beyond that? Are we good with an action item? Okay. All right, sounds good. Yeah, or, I'm sorry, consent. All right, thanks, Chief. Any new business? All caught up? We have our open floor comments. Sandy, I got your card. We'll talk about it in the city council when we have the topic come up. So we're not gonna forget you. Can I have a motion to adjourn then?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
JR, seconded by Mr. Peretta. All in favor?
Aye.
You guys ready to plow on, or you need a break? Okay.
I like it, I like
We'll take 5.
Gives you the break.
Did you roll call for city council meeting, please.
Present.
Here.
Here.
I lost my...
Hello.
Here.
Here.
They turned me down.
Yes.
Jared's very upset. All right, so we're all, who's here is here. All right, I'm looking to have a motion to have a consent agenda tonight.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Mr. Capadona, seconded by Mr. Peretta. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, for this meeting, we have approval of the regular city council meeting minutes for March 2nd, the committee of the whole meeting minutes for March 2nd, our payroll period ending February 29th, approval of various bills, and the official zoning map dated January 2016 of Resolution 16018. So we're looking to have a motion to pass.
Make a motion?
Joanne,
Second.
seconded by Chris Capadona. Can I have a roll call, please?
Yes.
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 All right, so CA1.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. The CA1 is the Commerce Street plans and the Hamilton Alley project that we had discussed with you 2 weeks ago. Tonight, we'll be seeking action for a motion to enter into a contract with V3 for construction, design, and engineering on Commerce Street and the Hamilton Alleyways later this year in 2016. That'll be a $56,410 proposal with V3 for construction documents and bid documents and designing of the projects, and about $328,000 for the actual improvements of the reconstruction of Commerce Street and the Hamilton Alleyways. So before we get to that, we had several questions come up a few weeks ago, and I know I've got George here for V3 if we need to get into anything more specifically. We did update our memo for this meeting. We are recommending, they came back with the, I think Alderman Petrakos asked about the additional value opportunity while they're doing these other bid specs and designs of 8th through 11th, that if they would include 7th Street in that planning, that we could have it, kind of shelf ready for the future. And that was an additional $9,000. I believe V3 estimated that to be about $22,000 if you decided to wait and start all over and do that on its own. So we felt like there was a good enough value there that at least if we had a design and construction bids ready to go, that if we can seek public-private partnership in the future in regards to whether it's the Gaylord building owners or the public landing or the Delwood Tire or the library, whoever these other entities could be that help us fund the estimated $140,000 to finish that project, and or the city could budget for it at some point in the future if they felt it was something they wanted to do. So we felt there was some good value in that. V3 also recommended using, I think there was some discussion, I think Amy brought up the idea about using the cement pylons as a parking bumper on the aggregate in lieu of the chip and seal application. They recommended even a rubberized bumper that would have a color contrast, which we thought was a good idea. V3 felt we could get our staff to install those for about the same amount of money we were estimating the chip and seal at, for about $5,000, so we're recommending that. I think the last question that came up might have been Jason or Chris that discussed, should we extend the, basically the asphalt apron closer to the CN line in regards to having a flatter, cleaner looking surface for under the guardrail and under that fencing. They guesstimated that at this point to be about an additional $15,000. We felt like that was a lot for kind of that minimal aesthetics that I think when you see guardrails, you pretty much expect some loose aggregate underneath it. So staff is not recommending that at this time, but certainly the council can do it if they so desire. So this project as currently presented is still kind of on target in regards to the funding that we were trying to accomplish. Staff is recommending these additional enhancements on the Commerce Street from 8th to 11th for $291,969. It includes the Hamilton Alleyways for $36,580. For a total of the actual construction project to be $328,549, which does include a 25% contingency. Some of that will be spent, obviously, on things that come up. Some of it will be spent on dealing with the CN in regards to radio and flaggers while they're doing the work, and that's kind of a guesstimated amount right now. And staff is, and so hopefully maybe there will be some savings there when we're done, but we don't know. And staff is recommending the revised V3 proposal for $56,410. I've got George here if you want to require any questions or comments, and we're seeking approval.
All right, well, can I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
JR,
I'll second it.
seconded by Chris Capadona. Any concerns about some of the new developments?
The timing of it, I think we discussed lightly last time, that, do we try to squeeze this in between Old Canal Days and Summer Art Series? And we felt that for the, if you put undue stress on the bidders, we could have to pay more for a set timeline, that it was better for the budget and the anxiety of the project to probably do this after the Mayor's Summer Art Series in September, October timeframe.
And we can get it done before the onset of winter, you believe?
Yes, we don't think, it's probably, George, you want to just talk about the project a little bit? It's probably only 3 or 4 weeks worth of work.
Yeah, it's not a tremendous amount of work, but there's some lead time on getting guardrail and things like that. So want to give the contractor enough time to do that and get organized so that they can get it done as efficiently and quickly as possible.
Okay.
It's not a tremendous amount of work, but again, when you force a contractor into a tight time frame, they're going to jack their rates up for that.
Okay.
So Ben, you'd said the cement bumpers, which now are recommended to be rubber bumpers, which I think is better than the
I think
cement.
they're rubber coated, aren't they? I don't know if they're actual rubber.
No, they're actually, they'll be.
Recycled rubber.
You can get either like a HDPE, a high density polyethylene, or a rubber that is
They'll be staked down into the
aggregate.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think they're probably more durable, but, so that's instead of doing the chip and seal, but you said that's approximately the same price as the chip and seal?
Yeah, we're guesstimating about $5,000.
And remind me, we didn't want to do the chip and seal because this is going to be a temporary parking lot and it would inhibit future owners from, because that would have to be torn up, right?
Yeah, it would have to be removed, yeah.
Okay, so there's not going to be any issues with the surface as it is.
Right,
now
and the original
for
reason we
the
went to the
temporary
chip and
use that we're
seal
gonna use it.
was that we wanted to put lines down to help identify the parking, but if we can do that with these multicolored bumpers, then we're kind of achieving 2 with 1.
Great.
Well, I have a question, George. When you do that, the temporary parking, are you going to just scrape out all that brick rubble? Are you going to leave the cement pads and just fill that aggregate up to those cement pads that are in there, up kind of against the walls?
I mean, we'll have to look at that and see if that's possible. Yeah, if we can utilize the pads, we'll use the pads and just grade out. I assume we would remove the larger rubble.
Yeah.
And then just put a small thin coat of aggregate over the top, trying to keep the cost as minimal as possible.
Okay, all right.
My questions are, so the additional, you're designing the additional part, is that as an alternate bid? Bids will come in for that extra?
We could do it either way. We could do it as an alternate bid. We could do it, a bid where, this year was the main part of the project and the second year was that project. Or, we could put together as a single bid package and you could bid, Phase A this year, and then sometime down the road, you could use the same set of plans to bid Phase B. So there's a lot of flexibility.
Yeah, if you can do that, just so we can, identify that price, right, it's there, and then if that contractor can honor that price for another year, at least we can see it's open for that year and make our decision then. And then if we all decide not to do that extra work, how do we track this? And this is more a question for Amy and Ben and maybe even Lisa. How do we track that we have these drawings sitting on the shelf that in 2 years, 5 years, we don't have to redesign it, we just have to spend a little bit of time to, clean up the drawings and put it back out to bid? How do we track that?
Got to keep all the same staff here.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah.
That stuff happens all the time. We blow dust off of the shelf, we're like, holy cow.
You're like, oh, we already did that, we already did this, let's go ahead. So, some way to track this.
I know that Finance Department does do some of their tracking on certain things, but we could probably develop some type of tracking through engineering, as far as projects.
Somewhere it just doesn't get shelved away, or it's on a future project, it's on a list. Everything we're tracking on a CIP that we say, drawing's done, as you're tracking it, that we have some notes in there.
Currently, we have a filing system in the engineering department for all of the city projects. And they're filed under like street projects, and then they're filed by name of the street. So it would be very easy to put those plans in. And if we, like say 10 years from now, we're all gone, and somebody goes in and says, we want to do reconstruction of this area of commerce, it would be very easy to go, they would have to search for plans for adjacent projects anyway, and as they search for that, they would open up that Commerce Street folder, and it would be in there already. So I think it would be very easy, I mean, unless they were just not looking at all. It'd be very easy for them to find those plans in our filing system.
Okay.
If, you know, say nobody was here in 10 years.
Right. Just one survivor left. And for the schedule-wise, you know, I agree with you totally. It's probably a bad time for bidding right before the summer to get this. Doing the construction during the summer is bad time, or prices will be crazy. If you guys can work something out, if we allow them till November or early December to do that, if we just say, it's your choice, Mr. Contractor, it's a duration, right? There's how much time you have to do it, but you can start whenever, but you have 30 days to do it. And if they choose to start in October or start in July, it's their choice, but maybe we get the best pricing.
I mean, we could set it up so that we could offer them to do it either, you know, in that earlier window or a later window, and give them the two windows, just so that they're not gonna interfere with the, you know, the festivals and the
right.
community events that are going on.
Right, great. Thanks.
All right. Can I have a roll call?
Petracos?
Yes.
Capadona?
Yes.
Locally?
Yes.
Beretta?
Yes.
Bartleson?
Yes.
5 yeas, motion carried.
And we will, once we do the bidding, and we'll come back at a future council to let you know where those numbers come in at. Hopefully, everything's under the proposed budget, so.
2 down.
Just be running with this without coming back.
Okay. All right, next topic we have is AT1, which is an extension of the new Lenox Lockport boundary agreement. I'll have a public hearing for this, so I will read. This is going to be a public hearing on the City Council's consideration of the extension of the boundary agreement between Lockport and New Lenox. The original agreement was approved in 1995. The original agreement helped promote orderly growth for both communities in the unincorporated territory between the two communities. Illinois law allows boundary agreements to be extended, but a public hearing is required by Illinois law before the City Council is authorized to consider this extension. New Lenox conducted its public hearing at its meeting on Monday, and the Village Board approved the extension. So before we invite members of the public to the podium to comment on the proposed extension of the boundary agreement, I will ask City staff to make any comments on this. I will then invite any member of the public to the podium to comment on the proposed extension. And after the members of the public speak, if anybody up here has a question, we'll be open to it. So, staff, what are your thoughts?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'll jump in on this one. It's basically the same boundary agreement that was approved in 1995 and that has served the communities very well. It does prevent developers from playing each community off of each other. We have pretty much circled the entire city with boundary agreements, so it's worked very well. There is one minor adjustment being made to the boundary line. The property known as the Buck property was actually bisected by the line. Half of the property was on the New Lenox side of the line, the other half was on the Lockport side of the line. And in Ben's conversations with his counterpart at New Lenox, we thought it'd be better to have the property that was bisected by the line on one side or the other. And I think we won the coin flip, and it's on the Lockport side of the boundary line. That's the only change from the 1995 agreement. Once you conduct the public hearing, if the council is ready to proceed with it, our recommendation is to approve it this evening.
Okay. Anybody have any public comments on this one? Okay. Well, then I'm just looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Seconded by Joanne. All right. Oh, I forgot to bring our public hearing to a close. And then, all right, we'll do a roll call, please.
Petracos?
Yes.
Capadona?
Yes.
Galogly?
Yes.
Beretta?
Yes.
And Bartleson?
Yes.
All good?
5 yeas, motion carried.
Okay. Oh, did I need to vote on that one for the annexation?
You know what, Mr. Mayor, I'd have to look at the statute. I don't think it requires you to vote, but
Just vote if it makes
if
it
you
safe.
don't mind, just in
Aye.
case.
Okay.
Okay. Next public hearing is for the annexation for the American Fire Training Systems project. This is a public hearing on the City Council's consideration of the annexation agreement for the existing business at 15200 New Avenue, known as the American Fire Training Systems. Before I invite members of the public to the podium to comment, I will ask city staff to provide a summary of the annexation agreement and zoning and special use permit for the property. After staff reports on the project, I will ask the owner of the business and his attorney to offer their comments to support. And after the owner conducts his presentation, I will invite members of the public to the podium to comment as well. Afterwards, anybody up here? We got comments and concerns? We'll go from there. And then once we've done that, I'll ask for any motions the City Council would like to make on the project. So Ben, you want to, or Tom, whoever?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the presentation was given actually 2 meetings ago, and at the last meeting, we reviewed the annexation agreement 2 meetings ago, and Pam provided a presentation on the zoning. It'll be zone industrial to match the current use. We have worked with the owner as far as doing some buffering and making sure the stacking of the containers is controlled on the side yards that are visible from New Avenue. And the owner's been very cooperative in working with us. The principal reason for the annexation is the owner needs a new potable water supply. He has weighed the costs of putting in a new well versus connecting to our system, and it's more economic to connect to the system that we have as opposed to having their own well. We do have the added advantage of having the property annexed and bringing in additional tax revenues. There's a potential for some sales tax revenue here where some of the units that are sold from the site are considered a retail sale that is subject to sales tax. So we'll see some tax increase coming to the city because of that. Part of our negotiation with the owner was to provide an incentive to come to the city and annex as opposed to going with a private well system, and the city staff agreed to reimburse the owner up to $15,000 from the new source of sales tax revenue the city would receive. It would not be from any existing revenues that we have or any other city funds. Staff has reviewed the agreement, and we're recommending its approval this evening after the close of the public hearing.
All right. John, you have any comments or thoughts?
John Antonopoulos for the owners of the American Fire Training Facility. Mr. Furkey is, in fact, delivering a unit out of the country right now and apologizes for not being present at the hearing. I'm here to answer any questions. I think we've talked about this a number of times, but if anybody has any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Okay. Well, I know Sandy had a question or two. Sandy, you want to come up?
Sandy Brzezinski, 711 Davies Avenue. Tonight I'm speaking on behalf of CARE, Citizens Against Ruining the Environment. I mainly have some questions for clarification. I don't know if this is the time to do it on the container portion, the cargo container portion of this permit. I'm just curious, it mentions recondition and modification of the cargo containers. I'd like to hear it. What does that mean? What's the definition of recondition and modification?
John, you want to speak to that?
Yes. Mr. Furkey takes containers and he converts them into fire training facilities. They add doors, windows, and then they're assembled and they're shipped off-site.
Okay, okay. There's no, okay, as far as noise, any type of chemicals, or any chemicals used in cleaning? You're not cleaning any tanks, you're not cleaning anything within there, no toxic odors. What about traffic?
All the work is done inside the shop. And
Okay.
Put together and then they're shipped
Okay.
off the site.
Okay. Let's see. Is this area near any environmentally sensitive land, wetlands, or floodplain?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Have they gotten any type of permits for this, or any type of violations while they're in county jurisdiction?
No violations, no. They're
Okay.
currently in compliance with
Okay.
county regulations.
Okay, let's see. How many containers will be permitted on site?
I'm sorry?
How many containers, John, will be permitted?
It'll vary depending
Okay.
upon the constraints of the site.
Sandy, are you aware that that's already operating at this location?
Okay, I seen that, and somebody
there
actually
for-
brought this to my
how many
attention.
years has it been there, Tom?
I didn't know. So I seen it was a public hearing, so I went
Yeah.
by there.
We're just annexing them. It's already been there and operating for
Right,
years.
but this cargo container has been there for years and years and
They've
years
all been
also?
there.
Because there's no sign up, and I didn't see any public hearing sign. Was,
It was up there.
there's a sign, I did not, unless I just overlooked it. And the property is 1.97 acres approximately. I believe that's what was in the, okay, let's see. And how much tax revenue, how much tax revenue will the city receive per year, approximately?
Initially, just real estate taxes alone, approximately $2,000 a year, additional real
Okay.
estate taxes. Additional money for sewer and water connection.
Okay,
Annual or monthly fees for sewer and water. And I haven't added all those up.
Okay.
But that'll be the revenue that's generated for them.
okay, but they are getting a $15,000 over a 5-year period, correct? No?
The $15,000 will only be shared with the city if we can generate additional sales
Gotcha,
tax.
okay, gotcha.
If we can't, then we don't get any.
Okay, I gotcha. And one last question, will the cargo containers be used or stored as part of the business? You're not gonna use those cargo containers and become part, like the off, you know what I mean? Like some of these people store stuff in there?
The purpose of this business is to assemble these containers,
Okay.
construct them, modify them, and then ship them off to various places.
Okay.
Not only around here, but all over the world.
Okay. You know what, I had one last question. What, it stated in Article 4 of the annexation agreement, raw materials. What are raw materials?
Raw materials are used in the process, stainless steel.
Okay.
Welding equipment.
Okay.
Things of that sort to manufacture these
Okay,
containers.
okay, and they don't need any type, and I think I asked this, they don't need any type of permits, like anything through EPA, any other type of,
No.
those,
It's basically a manufacturing facility.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Sandy. John, appreciate it. All right. Anything else up here from staff? Okay. No, very excited. It's a very, very interesting business. Glad to have it part of Lockport. Okay, we'll close the public hearing, and we'll ask for a motion.
Yeah, we're seeking a motion to pass a resolution 16023A approving the American Fire Training Systems Annexation Agreement.
So moved?
Second.
Alderman Peretta, seconded by Alderman Capadona. May I have a roll call, please?
Petracos?
Yes.
Capadona?
Yes.
Delogley?
Yes.
Parado?
Yes.
Bartleson?
Yes.
And Mayor?
Aye.
And Mayor and members of the council, we still have one more item on this same topic while John's here and we're talking about it. It's the actual planning and zoning case that we're seeking approval for tonight as well, now that we did the annexation agreement. We'll be seeking action to pass ordinance 16-003, which is an ordinance annexing certain territory in the city of Lockport and Will County, Illinois, approving the rezoning of the M2 general manufacturing, granting the special use permit for unique use being reconditioning and modification of cargo containers, and amending chapter 11.03A of the Lockport Municipal Code entitled Ward Boundaries. There is a council memo here from Pam. She's not with us tonight. Certainly welcome to take any questions. This was presented to, originally to the planning and zoning and was approved. We waited for the annexation time period and the hearing to bring them both back to you at the same time. It originally was February 17th, committee of the whole meeting. So again, we are seeking approval of ordinance 16-003 and the amendments of chapter 1103 and the use of the M2 general manufacturing and the special use permit for the reconditioning modification of containers.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Capadona, Galogly?
What ward is that going in?
Say it again?
What ward?
That's a good question. Not sure I know.
It's all right, you can tell me.
Yeah, I can follow up with you.
Not worry about it.
It's gotta be Ward 1.
Mm-hmm.
First ward is, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, Section 4 of the Lease indicates it's First Ward.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Any other concerns?
No.
Yeah.
Good? All right. Can we do we need a roll call or just a?
Roll call,
Yes.
please.
Petracos?
Yes.
Capadona,
Yes.
Valogly,
Yes.
Beretta,
Yes.
Bartleson.
Yes.
5 yeas, motion carried.
Very good. All right, Amy, what do you got?
Chris is, he's north side.
Okay, my only item on the agenda tonight is the 2016 Cleveland and 11th Street reconstruction bid results. This project involves a full reconstruction of Cleveland Street from Division to 11th and 11th Street from McKinley to Grandview, mid-block. And will include a new water main on 11th Street, curb and gutter, storm sewer, and landscape restoration. On March 9th, we received 10 proposals, and the lowest bid was from Austin Tyler Construction in the amount of $720,952.31. The budgeted amount for this project was $950,000, including $750,000 in roadway capital and $200,000 in water sewer capital. The proposal from Austin Tyler includes $629,000 in roadway capital and $91,000 in water sewer capital. We recommend that a contract be awarded to Austin Tyler Construction in the amount of $720,952.31.
All right, looking for a motion to approve.
I make a motion?
Joanne,
Second?
seconded by Mr. Peretta.
Mayor, I need to abstain from discussion and vote on this. I am looking to supply material on this project.
Okay. Anybody else have concerns or questions about this? All good? Nice, came in under budget, we like that.
Job.
Lori? Why don't we do a roll call? If I need to vote, that's fine, I will vote.
Chacos,
Yes.
Capadona,
Yes.
Beretta,
Yes.
Bartleson,
Yes.
and Mayor.
Aye. Okay. So, I think that concludes our meeting, yes? Any last minute open floor comments?
I just want to ask, what do we have to do in order to get those highway signs showing what Lockport has, like gas stations and?
Yeah, you're talking about the blue wayfinding signs?
Yes.
Technically, they are controlled by IDOT and the tollway. There are application processes, but we've actually talked to them a couple times about this, and they aren't allowing any blue signs on the tollway right now. So we are working
Really?
with them. We are actually starting to do some outreach with legislators. We can also look at potentially getting some smaller brown signs, attractions about come to down, those kinds of things up on the exit itself.
Okay.
But one of the other reasons we were, fortunate to partner with that large LED company on 159th is that at least if they get off and start coming towards Lockport, we can advertise and businesses can advertise on that as well. So there is a blue signage program. It's, I think it's the attraction wayfinding program. Businesses have to pay to be on it, but right now the tollway does not allow it. You'll notice from I-80 and down by Route 6 all the way up to 55, there are no blue signs because the tollway doesn't allow them right now.
All right.
We've talked to them a couple times.
Put a billboard on Public Works.
Yeah.
Actually working on that.
Yes, everybody keeps asking me, where's the pin?
Off topic. All right, then if there's nothing else, we'll do a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
All in favor?
Aye.